Okay, well this video is just to show you the stitch, and it's the textured chain stitch that I created, oh I don't know, probably close to a year ago. Anyway, how you do it is you take your working yarn and we go over the two stitches, so it's owl eye stitch. So you go over the two stitches like that, and then you give them a pull, and then you do a figure 8 on the same two pegs. So you go back behind the two pegs and then inside between them, around and back, and you just knit it off. And at this point you pull it and take up the slack, and there'll be quite a bit of slack there, and that's the trick in getting the stitch, is to get that slack up, and then you go over the next two pegs, and so you're right at this peg. This is now your peg 1, so you're wrapping it the second time, so that's your second owl eye time. But I'm just going to wrap it 2 pegs, and then you're going to snug it up, go back behind, doing the figure 8 between the 2 pegs, round to the back, and then just knit them off. Okay, and then you're going to pull this way, and there's lots of slack you're taking up this way to go front ways again, and you should leave just enough for you to get it over like that. And you go over the 2 pegs, give it a tug, and go back behind and around, just like that. And it's that tightening up that gives you the nice clean. And I'll show you. Here's the stitch. So it's very pretty stitch, has a lot of texture. There's a lot of texture here. Feels really good to the touch. The back looks like this, looks nice. See, when you pull this stitch out, this is what it looks like, and it looks kind of like a textured chain. It's relaxed. It's this nice textured look that you see right here. The yarn I'm using is quite a bulky yarn. It's Marvelous Mary Maxim. And what would be comparable is Charisma, because it's a thicker type of bulky, and I'm on a 3/4 inch gauge loom. So that gives you an idea of what the stitch looks like. And yeah, it has an amazing amount of texture and depth. Try to get a view where you can kind of see the depth of this stitch. There we go. Yeah, there's a lot of texture to it. Okay, so here we are, and whatever peg we're at is at peg 1, so I'm going to pull that tight again, and we go over. We'll call it peg 1 and 2. We're always working in a 2 peg pair, and we just go over it, pull it, and then we're going to go back behind in the middle, wrap peg 2, and knit them over, and this should be just snug enough to get over. Give it a tug. Now you're at peg 1 again, so this was your peg 2, so it's getting wrapped again, but it's now peg 1 wherever your working yarn is. Go over 1 and 2, give it a tug, back, figure 8, and this is where you give it the big tug to take out the slack. Wrap it over the next peg 1 and 2, knit them over, give a tug, go back to your figure 8, knit it over, take out the slack, and then go back over 1 and 2 again, give it a tug, figure eight it, and so as you see, you can really start clipping along with the stitch, and it goes really fast because you know, one pass is this, from here to here. It's about ½ an inch of work. So it actually goes really, really fast. Okay, so we take out the slack, we wrap peg 1 and 2, give it a tug, go behind, do the figure eight, and knit it over. That's it. Take out the slack, go over 1 and 2, back to the figure eight, always doing 2 peg pair, and whatever peg you end up at with the working yarn is peg 1, taking the slack and then over, peg 1 and 2, give it a tug, and figure eight it, and that's all there is to this stitch. There you go. So it's always done in one round. And you get the nice textured stitch. Now if I had used a thinner yarn, like a thin bulky like Barcelona, this would have been more open. It would kind of be more like this when relaxed. So you'd have more of this kind of look if you wanted it to be more lacy, or if you want to have just a textured look and you want it to look thicker, then you use a bulkier yarn. So if you were going to use something like a ½ inch loom, you would use a really thick worsted, or maybe even a thin bulky to get a look like this if you wanted to have the really thick textured look. Then if you wanted to have the more lacy look, you would use a thinner yarn with your loom. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have fun with the stitch, and until next time, we'll see you.